watching RT International. We've got breaking news this hour too, because it's been an historic day for Catalonia. The region's parliament has voted in favour of declaring independence from Spain. The results of a secret ballot were released last hour. A total of 72 lawmakers voted in favour of Catalan independence, 10 voted against and 2 abstained. Both pro-independence lawmakers and crowds of people outside the parliament did not hesitate to show their elation. OK, well, let's go live to Barcelona and our correspondent there, Charlotte Dubinsky, who's across what's been happening this afternoon. And a very eventful afternoon, a landmark decision, a landmark vote. What's been the reaction?
Incredible reaction on the street. We are certainly in an area of people who are pro-independence, because when that vote was released that Catalan Parliament had declared an independent Republic of Catalonia, the crowd went absolutely crazy here, Andrew. A sea of people shouting, bursting into song and screaming with joy. Now, in the lead up, the few minutes to that declaration, they were listening to the votes as they were happening. Every time a yes vote was declared, they were screaming in joy. Every time there was a no vote, they were booing. This was the reaction from thousands upon thousands, a sea of people outside the Catalan Parliament here in Barcelona, waiting for that reaction, waiting for that declaration of independence, and that is exactly what they got. Now, of course, that is not the opinion of everybody here in Catalonia. Many people would like to remain with Spain. The reality is, though, despite that declaration, we do not know what will happen next. That's because senators in Madrid are due to vote on Article 155. This is an unprecedented part of the Constitution which has never been used in Spain before since it was created back in 1978, and many people have described this as the nuclear option, because essentially what it does is remove autonomy from Catalonia. So while many people are now celebrating the fact that they have that declaration of independence, they've been waiting for it since the results of that referendum on October 1st. They now have it, but it still isn't clear exactly whether that will mean there will be a republic.
Yeah, and Lotte, just looking at the reaction we've received from Madrid, Rajoy saying that law will be restored in Catalonia. Does that concern people, given, you know, the heavy-handed policing that we saw during the independence referendum?
Well, yes, we've been speaking to people over the last few days, and that is one thing again and again people have said, is that they are concerned that if Article 155 is voted on and implemented, that will mean that Madrid will take control of things like the security forces here in Catalonia. Now, the Catalan police are called the Mossos Esquadra, and they themselves are quite divided over this question of independence or not. We were talking to people, and they were saying one of the things that really concerns them about the situation of Madrid, the government there taking control, is that they will see a repeat of the violence that happened during that referendum on October 1st. We saw many people injured during their attempts to go and peacefully vote in that referendum, which was disputed in regards to the legality of it. But we've spoken to many people that say the people here in Catalan, they will resist any attempts by the Madrid government to take control. But it is a concern, given that the estimated hundreds, more than 800 people were injured in that violence during the referendum. But Catalans here say they will protest peacefully. They want democracy, they want their rights, but they believe the best way to do that is to handle it peacefully. And one thing that's been really interesting here is we were in a crowd earlier that was split between those who want to remain unified with Spain and those who wanted this declaration of independence. And they were holding hands. These are people who are marching together side by side. They understand that their country is divided, but they want to find a solution to work through to decide whether this country goes ahead as being a republic or whether it remains with Spain. But the declaration from the Catalonian Parliament today is that this is now an independent republic.
Yeah, and Charlotte, just looking at a broader issue of the economy too, I mean, We've seen that large firms have already moved out of Barcelona, haven't they, in fear of perhaps an independence claimed by Catalonia. Are people concerned about how the region can function on its own, even if it is allowed to be independent?
Well, that is an interesting question, because the economy of the Catalonia region accounts for about 20% of Spain's overall GDP. So this one region accounting for a fifth of the economy in Spain. And many people in Catalonia, one of the reasons they wanted independence is because they feel that they're propping up some of the poorer parts of the country. Now, since that referendum, that disputed referendum took place on October 1st, around 1,500 companies, we understand, have left the Catalan region, some of them moving their HQs to other places like Madrid or other areas in Valencia. So there is some concern, and also city that we're in at the moment, Barcelona, is heavily dependent on the tourism industry, and there has been a slump in that tourism industry after people saw that violence during the referendum, and obviously because there is a big question over what is going to happen here. So these are questions that people are concerned about, because jobs mean money, mean putting food on the table, but the reality is we are in a completely new era. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and we're going to have to see how this plays out over the next few days. But the people who want independence, they want it at all costs, because they feel it is their democratic right to have their own country.
OK, Charlotte, look, we'll leave it there for now. We'll come back to you over the course of the evening, though. Thanks very much for the moment. That was Charlotte Dubinsky for us in Barcelona. Well, let's get more reaction too from Enric Folk. He's from the Catalan Solidarity for Independence movement, and I believe he's with us now. There he is. Enric, hello, good to talk to you. I spoke to you just, I think it was 24 hours ago. You were concerned that there had been no declaration of independence. Now it seems you've got it.
Yes, finally we got it. We are very happy. People here are very happy. We think and we thought and we fight against this to obtain these results. Finally, we get it, and then we are absolutely happy and with a big hope for the future.
While this is going on, Madrid has said that the rule of law will be upheld in Catalonia, and Madrid is also voting on whether to invoke Article 155, which would remove the autonomy of Catalonia. What are your fears about that?
Well, in fact, this it has been voted in Spain. They want to remove the autonomy of Catalonia by the Article 155. But look, actually, there is no autonomy in Catalonia because Catalonia decided not to be inside of Spain. Then it means that now they have a conflict. They can say that they avoid the autonomy of Catalonia, but it doesn't matter for us because we will follow our own law, our own institutions, and our own Catalan Republic. That means that they has nothing to do. The only one thing they could do is to act by force, not by law, like they was acting time before, that they pervert absolutely all the law and all the Catalan petitions. That means that we now will follow our own way, our own law, and the Republic of Catalonia.
Practically, though, in the coming months, I mean, if what you say plays out the way it does, it's going to be very difficult, isn't it, for Catalonia to maintain itself as a region, given all the problems you'll have with Madrid, with the police perhaps as well, and the economy too, because we've seen companies leave Catalonia in the run-up to this independence call. What are your concerns about the functionality of Catalonia over the coming months?
Yes, nobody says that it will be easy. These steps, it will be difficult steps. Of course, we will front immediately a lot of difficulties. Companies which will go out, and other companies will come back again. I am practically sure. But okay, we will need to face a lot of situations, especially because of Madrid will want at all to return back to Spain. But this is the cost of the independence. Nobody was saying that this will be in gratitude and without paying. We will need to pay, but we are ready to pay any cost for be free.
Is there still room for dialogue here with Madrid? Just confirming what you said earlier at the top of the interview, we do now know that the Madrid Senate did vote in favour of invoking Article 155. From that, there's an obvious conflict, isn't there? Do you think there's room for dialogue to sort this problem out at all? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, our president was giving hands open to dialogue, but as far as I know, a lot of pressures from inside of the government political party, Partido Popular, PP, and Mr. Rajoy was suffering great pressure inside of the party for the application of the Article 155. They want to apply this article. They want to suppress all the Catalan autonomy, and they want to close all the independent movement in Catalonia. This is something which you cannot do. Maybe you will apply for articles of constitution. Maybe you will apply for anything. But in fact, the independence and the independent movement created from the basis of the people, it will not be something which you can press by law or by nothing, either by force. You never could press it. It means that Catalonia will decide his future because the people decided his future and decided it by a democratic way. There is no another way back, actually.
I was looking at the pictures from inside the Catalan Parliament and I did see people hug each other and they were very joyful at the end. But before that, there were people leaving in protest, and also on the streets of Catalonia, there's division too. Yes, a large number of people want independence, but there are people that don't. I mean, it's not just Spain that's divided. There are divisions too in Catalonia, aren't there?
Of course, it's clear. There is people in Catalonia that they don't want to be separate from Spain. This is right. It's legitimate right. They could think on it. But of course, if you put a votation in March, then you have the right to go and to vote. And it was some Catalans which was thinking that it is better to stay in Spain, that they was voting not to the independence. But look, when polling is down and you have the right to go and to express yourself, the results of this votation, it must be followed. There is the moment to say yes or to say no. If there is not a reasonable question to say that there is a lot of people who want to be in Spain. Yes, there is a lot, but how much? How much you know when you vote? And there it was clearly who was voting and who was not voting and what was the result.
OK, Enric, look, really good to get your thoughts so soon after all this is just developed and broke. We appreciate it. That was Enric Folker, Secretary of the International Section Catalan Solidarity for Independence. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, Catalonia's referendum on independence on October the 1st, you might remember, was marked by violence from Spanish police who were ordered to prevent the vote from taking place.
There's already people bleeding and hurt, and this is not the first 3 people that we saw today already that were hurt and were taken from here by ambulance. So this is happening from the early hours of the morning, and it seems to be escalating.
OK, well, we are getting news of the Spanish Senate approving direct rule on Catalonia. This decision was made by the Spanish Senate, and that was made just minutes after the Catalan Parliament voted in favour of declaring independence from Spain. Let's get into what all this could mean with Ilya Petrenko, who's joining me now in the studio. Ilya, so they've invoked Article 155. Just explain then the significance of this.
Andrew, hi again. Well, of course, these are historic events for Spain and Catalonia, but the events that are happening in Madrid, the ones that you were talking about, the decisions that are being made by the leaders of Spain are no less important than the events in the Catalonian parliament. In the immediate aftermath of the vote, as you were saying, the Senate was having a vote on invoking Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution. That is the first time they ever did that, and the article means the fact that they actually agreed on implementing that article. It means that the government in Madrid is now capable of using all measures necessary to compel a crisis in that region. So basically, the Prime Minister, Mariano Rajoy, who previously called on the Senate to have that vote, is doing what he promised to do. Previously, he promised to the entire Spanish population that the rule of law will be restored, and he asked all Spaniards to remain calm in this case. He appealed to the Senate. He wanted to take control of the Catalan region. The most important thing for Prime Minister Rajoy was to dismiss the Catalan president, Carles Puigdemont. Let's take a listen to what Mr. Rajoy previously said when he was appealing to the Senate.
We're asking you, senators, to dismiss the president, vice president and members of the Catalan government. Likewise, the regional parliament must be barred from electing new members.
Massive applause in the audience in the Spanish parliament, as you can see. This means that Madrid is confident, and it means that they will have things to do. Definitely, we have seen them being able to exercise power. That was the massive federal police crackdown during the actual vote for the independence in Catalonia, where we saw, perhaps some people are calling this the worst instances of police brutality, of police using force against the population in the history of the European Union. That's how some commentators are calling this. But in both cases, this time around and previously, the Spanish federal government, including the leader Mariano Rajoy, is saying that basically there was no other choice to restore order, democracy and stability in the country. Speaking of the implementation of Article 155 from the Spanish Constitution, again, first time the Spanish government is doing this. Now the Spanish government has many options. First of all, I guess what they'll be looking for is to fire Mr. Puigdemont, who is the president of Catalonia. In this case, if the article is implemented, the region becomes fully controlled by Madrid temporarily, because this doesn't rid technically Catalonia of the autonomy. So perhaps then some kind of powers can be given to them. The rest of the Catalan government is likely to be able to operate, but then again under Madrid control. And the parliament would be active, or I guess will be active right now, because the article has been implemented, but they will not be able to elect a new president until the crisis is resolved.
Yeah, and who knows when that will be. Okay.
And who knows what exact measures, what exact force can the Madrid government now implement to really do this, because the people in Catalonia, the police in Catalonia, I guess they're not ready to accept this kind of decision.
Just moments ago, Ilya, we were hearing from Rajoy, and he was saying that law will be restored in Catalonia. That was his message to Spain. So quite what he has in mind, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, thanks for that. That was Ilya Petrenko. OK, well, let's just get an update then on what has been happening over the last couple of hours. We are getting news that the Spanish Senate has approved the implementation of Article 155. It has never been used before and means removing Catalan autonomy. Spain's President Rajoy called on the Spanish people to remain calm. He also said that the rule of law in Catalonia will be restored. The decision comes just minutes after the Catalan Parliament voted in favour of declaring independence independence from Spain. A total of 72 lawmakers there voted in favour of Catalan independence, 10 voted against, 2 abstained. The movement for secession of Catalonia from Spain has its roots as early as 1922, so after almost 100 years of struggle, that landmark decision has now been made by the Catalan Parliament. You might remember on October the 1st, 90% of Catalans did turn out for an independence referendum, and they voted to leave Spain, 90% of those who actually voted. Following that, hundreds of thousands took to the streets both for and against independence. Well, throughout their push for independence, Catalonia has repeatedly faced fierce opposition from Madrid. Here's a recap.
To those in charge in the Catalan government, who are the protagonist in this challenge to our coexistence, I ask them to cease in their illegal activities. They should abandon their objectives. We are now applying Article 155 because no government at all in a democratic country can accept that the law be ignored, violated or changed. And this has all happened under false criteria, and they impose their criteria on everybody else.
OK, we can get to some reaction to all of this now, to this historic decision that was made from UKIP MEP David Coburn, who joins us. Thanks very much for your time, David, for coming on to RT. What's your reaction, firstly, to the Catalan vote and their vote for independence?
Well, it's very interesting. In Scotland, we had a problem, and we had a vote, we had a plebiscite on this, and we decided to remain British. Obviously, it would seem that there needs to be a proper vote taken, which people do not refuse to take part in. You have to make sure the whole population agree to that. We did, and we had a result. But unfortunately, the Scottish nationalists don't seem to get the idea that we decided to remain British. So, you know, obviously if there's going to be a referendum, we have to make sure that all sides agree to it and that they agree to stay by the outcome. That is very important, I think.
And with regard to what's happening in Spain, just generally speaking for Europe, David, we saw there that the Catalan Parliament voted for independence. We've seen that Madrid has now said we're going to assume control over Catalonia. The country, the powers that be there are at an impasse. How do you see this playing out?
Well, I know from chatting with President Juncker, I spoke with a couple of weeks ago, the European Union have no intention of interfering in Spanish affairs, internal affairs, as they have tried to do in Britain, but they have stirred up things between Scotland and they keep on mentioning the Irish border situation, which is quite easily soluble. But they made a lot of fuss with the Scottish nationalists about Scotland, basically trying to put pressure on London, which I thought was wrong. But I think they've now got the idea, with the problems now taking part in Spain, that maybe it's a good idea if they actually keep out of internal affairs of the various countries, because this is just the first of many other countries in Europe who have problems with the central administration. But why they're making a fuss, I'm not so sure, because Spain doesn't govern itself anymore. It's governed by the European Union. Decisions are no longer made in Madrid, they're made in Brussels. So I don't think they've quite got the idea of that. But as far as I'm concerned, that this is something that needs to be dealt with in a plebiscite that everyone agrees to, and they must agree to the outcome. And the problem in Scotland, we got the Scottish nationalists who don't seem to have got the message.
Why do you think that we've seen this rise in secessionist movements across Europe?
Well, I think it's basically the European Union. People don't want to be ruled by a faceless bunch of people in Brussels, and they think the decisions are being made in Madrid, things that they don't like. Well, those decisions are not made in Madrid; they're made in Brussels, and Madrid just does as Brussels tells them. So, maybe it's the European Union has brought this to a head, and it's not just Spain. We get the same problems with the Basques. The Flamands in Belgium, various parts of Europe, there are problems. People want to secede because people don't want to be ruled by a faceless bureaucracy in Brussels. They want to make their own decisions locally and then have a national government as well. And I think that maybe perhaps a different way of dealing with the national government. Perhaps they want more decisions to be made in their region. But that's, again, an internal decision for those countries. The European Union has created a lot of problems economically with the euro, decision-making being taken away out of people's hands. People cannot get a hold of representatives by the scruff of the neck and throw them out once every 5 years. So I think people are disheartened by central governments of large European states. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. And the reason for that is they've given all the power to Brussels. That's our big problem. That's the big problem of Europe. It's not going to go away until we get out of the European Union and various other countries succeed too. I think the European Union is not the answer to everyone's problems. It's creating problems. So you'll have to look at what's happening in the Central European Bank and what's going on there. It's not good.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that the EU doesn't want to get involved in this issue of Catalonia and its struggle for independence. So they say, but they must still be very concerned, surely. I mean, you're in the halls of power there. Do you sense people are fearful of what's happening in Europe at the moment?
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons they stopped interfering in Scotland was because they started to, they started to see all these problems building up in the rest of Europe, and they're very, very concerned about it. And I think they realise that many of the problems are being caused by power being taken away from the local, well, how do you call it, the so-called national governments, Spanish national government, the French national government, and the power is going to Brussels, and people are not getting a hearing. They're not getting the response they want from central government. They don't understand why. They think it's the fault of central government. Well, it's not actually the fault of central government. The fact that the problem is that central government have given all their powers away to Brussels. They're just rubber stamps for Brussels. So I don't think the Catalans have quite got the idea. If they want some sort of change, they're going to have to get out of Europe as well. It's not just a question of getting out of Spain.
Okay.
This is the big problem. And Catalonia is one of the richest parts of Spain. So that's why they're feeling very upset.
OK, look, David, really good to talk to you. Interesting thoughts there. That was David Coburn, UKIP MEP. Thank you.